Thanks for staying with us at this hour as we continue monitoring the situation in Morocco, where the search for survivors in the 6.8 magnitude earthquake that struck on Friday continues. Moroccans are said to be doing their best to ensure the rescue services are done without as much hindrance. And thankfully, help is coming in from neighboring countries. Reporters on the ground say the whole country has mobilized to help communities devastated by the quake. Apart from supplies like food and water, people have also been donating blood. Friday's quake was said to be the country's deadliest in 60 years. It struck villages in the high Atlas Mountains south of Marrakesh.
It's 48 hours after a powerful earthquake struck Morocco, killing thousands of people, damaging buildings in Marrakech Old City, a World Heritage Site. On Monday morning, people walked through the quake-damaged streets of Marrakesh, many of them having spent a third night outside because their homes are destroyed or rendered unsafe. About 2,000 people are said to have died, a devastating number that is expected to rise. For survivors, it has been a harrowing experience. Hamid Ben Henna is a father who lost his son. He recounts the events preceding the earthquake on Friday that killed his child.
It all started at 11 p.m. or 11:30 p.m. We were having dinner. I asked my son to bring a knife from the kitchen to cut desserts. He didn't bring it because as soon as he left the kitchen, the earthquake struck. He ran here where you can see rubble. He was buried by 1.5 to 2 meters of rubble.
Ben Henna and his other son, Muad, staggered out of the open door into alleyways as their house began to collapse. They managed to free his wife and small daughter, but as the dust settled, they saw that Maroon had not made it. The 8-year-old had run further into the house and was lying under a meter of rubble. His little body was only recovered the next day after Ben Henna's brothers arrived by car from Casablanca 5 hours away to help lift the rubble. Elsewhere at the wedding, eyewitness video shows the moment the powerful earthquake interrupted an orchestra performing the ceremony. Musicians and a singer abandoned the stage and fled through a doorway as people were heard screaming. As search and rescue operations continue, international allies have stepped up efforts in helping Morocco. At least 4 planes were headed from Qatar to Marrakesh on Sunday to provide rescue teams and aid. Spain, the UK, and the UAE have also sent aid in the wake of the devastating disaster. A statement from King Mohammed VI says Morocco assessed aid needs and considered the importance of coordinating relief efforts before accepting help from the 4 countries. The earthquake is Morocco's most powerful in more than 6 decades. The quake's epicenter was 72 kilometers southwest of Marrakesh, a city beloved of Moroccans and foreign tourists for its medieval mosques, palaces, and seminaries richly adorned with vivid mosaic tiling amid labyrinth or rose-hued alleyways.
And joining us now for more is Ahmed Hamad from the Voice of America's correspondent. Ahmed, thank you very much for joining us. Now, rescue services have been on the beat since Friday, and people are using their hands, small equipments to meet those still alive under the rubble. What are we learning, Ahmed, about how challenging this is for the rescuers and for the people awaiting rescue?
Yes, as you said earlier, people were using hands as the means to conduct rescue activities. But from the order of His Majesty King Mohammed VI, the military has been deployed. So there is the use of helicopters and bulldozers in high mountains where the earthquake has struck and the ramifications have been seen in the high. But the military is assisting. So every equipment and modern equipment have been utilized by the Moroccan Authority.
And Ahmed, can you tell us what sort of help Morocco is receiving from neighbors and other countries that may be pitching in?
There's various assistance. For instance, equipment, helicopters, food has been received from different places, medicine, doctors, as you said, from the UK, from the UAE. So I would say each nations have been providing different type of assistance to Morocco.
And it's also been, what, 2 days since the quake? The situation like this really could have taken their toll on those actively participating in the rescue, in attending to those who have been rendered homeless, and for the government, which has declared 3 days of national mourning. How are all these issues being addressed?
Well, it has been tough times. It has been challenging, but as time goes by, people are coping. As I said, Marrakesh has been hit a lot, but particular places that have seen a lot of ramification and the death toll are the Atlas Mountains places. For instance, places like Al Huz have recorded more than 1,300 deaths just from one place. So people are trying their best to cope. As I said, the government has released a number where people who are seeking any sort of assistance can reach out to the government, and that assistance can be provided.
And one of my final questions to you, Ahmed, is earlier we did say reporters on the ground say the whole country has mobilized to help communities. Can you give us a little bit of insight how that's going and what you've noticed on the ground as well?
I would say Moroccans have come together in solidarity. People from all over Morocco have come in the southern part, Marrakesh, Al Huz, Toulouan. People have donated blood, food, and clothes. So it's more of a community type of thing. Solidarity of Moroccans has been seen at high. People came together and people are donating as much as they could to tackle this disaster.
All right. Thank you very much, Ahmed Hamad. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you so much.
And let's turn to Libya now, where at least 150 people have died after a powerful storm caused severe flooding east of the country. Storm Daniel reportedly made landfall in the country over the weekend, forcing authorities to declare a state of extreme emergency. At least a dozen people were reportedly killed in the storm last week in Europe. Unverified videos of the storm have been circulating online, including a clip showing torrents of floodwater sweeping a man away. Other footage shows drivers trapped on their rooftops of their cars. Alongside schools and shops, 4 major oil ports closed because of the storm. The Prime Minister of the rival internationally recognized government in the capital, Tripoli, Abdulhamid Dbeiba, said on Sunday he had directed all state agencies to immediately deal with the damage and floods, while the United Nations in Libya said it was following the storm closely and would provide urgent relief assistance in support of response efforts at local and national levels. And in the United States, the Kilauea volcano began erupting on Sunday afternoon with flows confined to the surrounding crater floor. The U.S. Geological Survey posted images of the eruption showing fissures at the base of the crater, generating lava flows on the surface of the crater floor. The Hawaii Emergency Management Agency wrote on social media that the eruption does not pose a lava threat to communities, though volcanic particles and gases may create breathing problems for people exposed. Kilauea is one of the world's most active volcanoes and erupted in January and June this year. And here's another look at the Kilauea volcano on Hawaii's Big Island, which erupted on Sunday afternoon. Footage this time from Big Island VIP, a company that offers tours around Hawaii Volcano Natural Park, showed lava spewing into the air. The eruption was preceded by a period of strong seismicity and rapid uplift of the summit. The agency elevated Kilauea's aviation color code from orange to red as it evaluates the eruption and its volcano alert from watch to warning.
Our 5 a.m. tours will open up, but we do not know how long this eruption may.
Moving on to North Korea, which leader Kim Jong-un has reportedly departed from aboard a special train bound for Russia and a summit with President Vladimir Putin. Media in Russia reported earlier today that leader Kim, who rarely travels abroad, was expected to visit Russia's Far East in the coming days. On Saturday, the Kremlin said President Putin would be in the far eastern city of Vladivostok to attend the Eastern Economic Forum, which opened on Sunday, but said it had nothing to say about a possible visit by Kim. North Korea is one of the few countries to have openly supported Russia since it sent tens of thousands of troops into neighboring Ukraine last year, and Putin pledged last week to expand bilateral ties in all respects in a planned way by pooling efforts. Kim's last trip abroad in 2019 was also to Vladivostok for his first summit with Putin after the collapse of North Korea's nuclear disarmament talks with former U.S. President Donald Trump. U.S. media, the New York Times, specifically reported that in a rare trip abroad, Kim would travel from Pyongyang, probably by armored train, to Vladivostok on the Pacific coast of Russia, where he would meet Putin. While in Vladivostok, a port city not far from North Korea, the two leaders would discuss Kim's sending Russia artillery shells and anti-tank missiles in exchange for Moscow's advanced technology for satellites and nuclear-powered submarines. As for residents in the Russian city of Vladivostok, many are not sure the North Korean leader will be visiting the city, but say Russia and North Korea have common interests. One respondent said that the North Korean leader is such a cryptic person, and they were not sure whether or not he was coming. They had noticed some changes already going on in the city, supposedly in anticipation of his arrival. Another said that North Korea is an isolated country, and maybe they could be friends with Russia, but not likely the United States. And yet another says both countries have something in common, which is being able to bare their teeth to the world, and both can stand up for themselves. And just before he set out for Russia, the North Korean leader attended a photo session with participants celebrating the 75th anniversary of the country's founding, but stayed away from other events. In the video aired by state-run television KRT, the participants were seen applauding when Kim arrives in front of Kumususan Places of the Sun and posed for a group photo. KCNA made no mention of Kim other than attending a photo session at the courtyard of the mausoleum that houses the bodies of his father and grandfather, as he praised the people who put state affairs above their family affairs in good or bad days.
기념 촬영이 끝나자 무한한 감격과 격정에 넘친 환호성이 피어지기 아쉬워 솟구치는 눈물을 걷잡지 못하며 한국의 역사를.
The visa ban on Nigerian travelers to the United Arab Emirates has been lifted with immediate effect by the UAE government. This follows a meeting today between President Bola Tinubu and the President of the United Arab Emirates, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, in Abu Dhabi. A statement by the presidential media aide, Ajuri Angela Lee, explains that the president and his UAE counterpart reached the agreement as part of a historical deal between both countries. Following the agreement, both Etihad Airlines and Emirates Airlines are to immediately resume flight schedules in and out of Nigeria. According to the statement, an agreed framework has been established between Nigeria and the UAE involving several billions of US dollars worth of new investments into the Nigerian economy, cutting across defense, agriculture, and others. The president has also successfully negotiated a joint new foreign exchange liquidity program between the two governments, details of which will be announced in the coming weeks. Our Dubai correspondent Mayowa Adegoke joins us now for more. Mayowa, thank you so much for joining us. This is great news for Nigerians here and also for Nigerians in the United Arab Emirates. What has been the reaction as the news really trickles in? Because, as I imagined, it just happened a few minutes ago.
Absolutely. It happened just a couple of minutes ago. And as you can imagine, a lot of excitement, a lot of finally, I'm already seeing content being produced online. People in travel business, people who do business across both countries are very excited that finally business can resume as per usual. So definitely it's a lot of excitement, a lot of this should have been done earlier, but we're glad that we're here now.
And really, Mayowa, does this new deal ported good news for Nigerians seeking work and residence permits in the UAE, right?
Yes, even though what was specified was visa ban, which means people who are looking to, say, come into the country as tourists or to do business, we have already in weeks past seen that shift on the UAE side. As I reported a couple of weeks ago, women, female workers here in the UAE are already getting work permits, and we're expecting that maybe with this kind of news and update, their male counterparts can now begin to see a change when they go to apply for work permits. Overall, I think it's good news all around. And in the coming days, everyone will have their eyes peeled to see action. Now we've heard the words, we will need to see action as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Has the UAE government actually made the announcement official already?
I am still monitoring all media channels, yet to see any official announcement on any of the channels, local media, state news agency, or even the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the UAE. Still looking out, so maybe we will see that tonight, later, or tomorrow. We don't know, but as of now, nothing just yet.
So how soon do you think the new agreement comes into effect?
What I think is not really what's important. What is important is for people to see what's being said. And I think that, yes, the Nigerian government has announced that this agreement says all bans lifted immediately, Emirates and Etihad should resume flights immediately, but I don't think you can book any flight tonight. So we would wait to see Emirates and Etihad announce those flights. And I do believe that a lot will have to be put in place. Some agreements we all know what happened in Lagos recently. So there's a lot to be put in place. And we hope that it's soon, right? We want to see everything happen soon.
All right. Thank you so very much, Mayowa.
Thank you for having me.
The G20 meetings are over, but outcomes are still being discussed and highlighted. One of which is that U.S. President Joe Biden said he raised the issue of human rights in India and the importance of a free press with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Mr. Biden made the remarks at a press conference in Hanoi, where he said he had substantial discussions with Mr. Modi about continuing to strengthen the India-U.S. relationship. Activists and rights groups have questioned India's deteriorating human rights track record under the Prime Minister. His government has denied allegations that attacks on minorities, especially Muslims, have risen since Hindu nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party came to power in 2014. According to the latest World Press Freedom Index released by Reporters Without Borders, RSF, in May, India's spot has dropped 11 places from last year to 161 out of 180 countries. Campaigners have often called on Western leaders, including Mr. Biden, to raise these issues with Mr. Modi. But experts say the U.S. will tread carefully as India is seen as a crucial ally in attempts to stem China's rise. Meanwhile, the U.S. president addressed the issue of China changing the rules of the game without specifying which rules he was speaking about in Hanoi, Vietnam. Biden told reporters that he met with the Chinese Premier Li Qiang at the annual G20 summit in New Delhi, adding that the Chinese economy has struggled due to a lack of international growth, but underscored he wants China to succeed economically, but by the rules.
I am sincere about getting the relationship right. And one of the things that is going on now is China is beginning to change some of the rules of the game in terms of trade and other issues. And so one of the things we talked about, for example, is that they're now talking about making sure that no one in the Chinese government can use a Western cell phone. Those kinds of things. And so really what this trip was about, it was less about containing China. I don't want to contain China. I just want to make sure we have a relationship with China that is on the up and up, squared away. Everybody knows what it's all about. And one of the ways you do that is you make sure that we are talking about the same things. And I think that one of the things we've done, I've tried to do, and I've talked with a number of my staff about this for the last, 6 months, is we have an opportunity to strengthen alliances around the world to maintain stability. That's what this trip was all about. Having India cooperate much more with the United States, be closer with the United States, Vietnam being closer with the United States, it's not about containing China. It's about having a stable base in the Indo-Pacific. And all the effort we've advanced from day one of my administration to demonstrate to our Indo-Pacific partners and to the world, the United States is a Pacific nation, and we're not going anywhere. We're not looking to decouple from China. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to sell China material that would enhance their capacity to make more nuclear weapons, to engage in defense activities that are contrary to what is viewed as most people think was a positive development in the region. And but we're not trying to hurt China.
And let's talk about the 22nd anniversary of the 9/11 attacks in the United States. The somber event was marked with a U.S. flag unfurling on the side of the Pentagon. Nearly 3,000 people were killed, including more than 2,600 at the World Trade Center, 125 at the Pentagon, and 265 on the 4 planes. Meanwhile, the Bell of Hope rang out at St. Paul's Chapel in New York this morning to mark the moment at 8:46 local time when the first of 2 planes hit the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001. Reverend Philip Jackson, the rector from nearby Trinity Church, Wall Street, led the prayer service and remembrance. The Bell of Hope has rung on every anniversary since 2002, when it was presented to New York City by London to honor those who died in the attacks. And it has been a somber day in the United States today as families remember their loved ones who died in the September 11 attacks. Some of the few who showed up for the memorial today say they feel the event just like it happened yesterday.
The twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof.
Our correspondent in Washington, Maria Bird, joins us now to capture some of the day's events. Maria, we can only imagine the mood in the United States right now. Many say it feels just like yesterday. Is that feeling you were getting as well in Washington, the seat of power in the United States?
Well, I can agree. I was actually thinking about it this morning. I was a student in New York when it occurred, and so I remember it like it was yesterday, the smoke that covered the city. And so I think about all of those Americans. You mentioned the number 3,000 that died. One of the things that has become very apparent today is the number of individuals that have lost their lives as a result of 9/11 after the actual attack. So those who have suffered major medical issues as a result of the smoke inhalation, just many of the health ailments that occurred for individuals who are part of, whether they were firefighters, they lived in that ground zero area, that have actually succumbed to that, now has exceeded the number that actually died on 9/11. So it's a real time of reflection, a real time of remembrance, as you said, and a time to look at all the families that have lost loved ones, whether it was on that day or that have lost loved ones in the last 22 years as a result of the 9/11 attacks. And so this definitely had forever a mark on American history, but more importantly, it had a mark on the lives of so many who have been impacted. And the entire American community has been impacted by the 9/11 attacks.
And really, every year we ask what America may have learned from the attack. There have been a few modifications to Homeland Security since the attacks. As people remember, for the 22nd year, does the nation still feel like it is under threat of terrorism?
I think that the threat of terror doesn't cross everyday Americans. If you think about 22 years ago, there's some individuals who don't even remember it. The average continent today is under the age of 22, and so they don't remember the attack. So being aware of the ever-present potential of a terror attack, I don't know if crosses their mind as much. But I think for Americans, as we look at all of the various international relationships, I think that there have been periods of time where Americans can vividly remember 9/11, think about Al Qaeda and all the various terrorist groups that had a threat against the U.S., and they get a little nervous. But I wouldn't say that people are every day thinking about the potential of a terrorist attack. I think it's more so, just remembering actually what happened.
What's the president said about 9/11 today? We know he's on the road. He was last heard of in Hanoi. How does the country's #1 citizen mark today's remembrance?
Well, the president is in Alaska, and I would venture to say the majority of places all across the country are doing some sort of remembrance today. And so he is likely participating in those activities there in Alaska. The vice president is in Ground Zero today for those ceremonies that will be occurring right there in Ground Zero. So he will be doing reflections. As you said, this is something that impacted the entire country. So even as far as he is away from Washington and New York, it is still a time of remembrance. And those on that side of the country too, remember that the plane was headed to Los Angeles. And so this was something that not only impacted the East Coast, but all the way across to the Midwest and the west of the country.
All right, thanks so very much, Maria.